Well, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Sweeter After Difficulty podcast. This is the first episode of 2026. So, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I just want to start the show by being grateful for you and for you being here. Thank you for being part of these conversations. Thank you for making them so fun and so cool. We are loving having them, and we are just getting started. Today, I've got a really special guest and someone that I picked specifically for the first episode of 2026 because we have some exciting things happening this year. But I'm not going to waste a lot of time up front, kind of padding it up and getting it ready. Brett, how's it going, brother?
Dude, Randy, it's so good to be here, man. I'm always happy whenever we get to hop on conversations. And I know I have a great way of being like calling you up, going, dude, you got 5 minutes? And then it's like an hour later, and you're like, yeah, Brett, you're still talking. So we'll see how long this
Yeah.
goes for.
Yeah, it could be anything. Buckle up, get comfy, grab some popcorn, everybody. But actually, aside from all the exciting things that we have going on that we're going to get into a little bit later, Brett and I haven't known each other very long. We were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Russ Lagan, who we're doing some podcast stuff with. And, it just sort of popped off. It was one of those things that, things just kind of went naturally easy. And we went, oh, maybe we should talk about some other things. So, before we get into all that though, I always like to start at the beginning, just for the sake of everyone listening and for my own sake. Uh, Take us back. Where do you come from? Talk to me about your family, your early life.
Yeah, dude. So I was born and raised in Maui, Hawaii, and kind of grew up like a 90s kid, basically, like trying to get home from school to watch Dragon Ball Z and little cartoons and, The Simpsons and things that just either made me laugh or maybe, like wish I could be a character in a story somewhere. And that actually it has continued probably my whole life. Is just growing up, I had two older sisters, myself, my younger brother, my mom, my dad, and just yeah, it was a really interesting kind of island life growing up because it's still very much first world, but it was also very much removed. So I grew up thinking like that my world and the world was actually pretty small. And it wasn't until probably taking trips, over the Pacific Ocean out to seeing other parts of the world when you realize like, oh, it's actually a pretty big place. There's a lot of people here because growing up on an island, pretty much everybody knows you. So it was an interesting kind of way to grow up. And yeah, there's probably a ton of little stories, but I'll share like one kind of story for me. I really got into the like ocean sports growing up. So I love like bodyboarding and then free diving, spearfishing, things like that. And I remember I used to like uh, carry a spear gun down like a mile down the road, like every day almost during summer, and I would just go spearfishing out, in the ocean. So, like looking back when you're a kid, like you're just kind of oblivious to like how does this appear to other people, just kind of like trek, just making the trek like every day, just spear gun and like fins and fish in hand, basically. But yeah, that was kind of growing up life.
What so what originally took your parents to Hawaii?
Dude, yeah. So they were born in San Diego. Well, my dad was actually born in Oahu before it was a state, which is such a trip to me. And it's kind of cool actually. We have a lot of like in Hawaii we call it like you're like a poi dog. Like it's like kind of like a mutt, right? So we have Chinese, Hawaiian, like Native American, French, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, German, English, like all these different ethnicities in our bigger family. With my parents, it was interesting because my grandpa on my dad's side, so he's military, right? World War II veteran, crazy stories, being a Marine in the South Pacific, like
Yeah.
crazy, crazy stories. He met my tutu, which is Hawaiian for grandma, on Oahu, and they fell in love. They got married, had my dad, and then he got restationed in San Diego. So then it was kind of like a lot of the like family ties were in Hawaii, but then they were transplants. And it was actually crazy. Like I've heard stories where they were doing like luau's in their backyard in San Diego and all the neighbors coming over. My dad technically grew up like, we call it Hapa in Hawaii. It's like biracial. So, all that seems normal growing up, but like learning later on, like it was pretty difficult for them as a family in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, it was so they all grew up in San Diego, and then I think the islands kind of, had a calling, so to speak. So it was like in the mid-70s, my dad and then his brother and then all their siblings all made it back out to Hawaii. And yeah, I think in a lot of ways they were trying to get away from some family life stuff, complications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Are your sisters still in Hawaii too?
Yeah, so my oldest sister is still in Hawaii. She has a daughter. She's still on Maui, and then my other sister actually passed away in
Mm.
like 2019. So that what's interesting there is like, and I don't know how deep we want to get with everything, but that was a big catalyst for a lot of changes in my family.
Mhm.
One of which is now pretty much, except for my oldest sister, everybody in my family now lives in South Carolina. So it's like total whiplash when it comes to like, yeah, traveling.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was interesting too. Just how, you were talking about the small world or whatever, but I was actually born on the Navy base in Charleston, South Carolina. And I and I haven't been back there as an adult, but
Wow.
recently I was talking to my nephew who just joined the Navy and he got stationed on that base in Charleston, South Carolina. So,
What?
like, so now I have family and I've got you out there. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it may be time for a South Carolina trip, to figure out,
Yeah.
retrace the history.
Hey, you
Um,
guys have a place to stay anytime you want if
yeah,
you're out here.
no,
And
that's
you don't want to stay in
amazing.
a military base, you can.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'll sleep anywhere, right? Like, whatever. Um, yeah, okay. So we all went to South Carolina, but you still kind of split your time. Is your family still splitting time too, or are they mostly in one place or the other at this point?
They're mostly in one place. I'm the one that's kinda doing the splits and kinda going back and forth. So we're all from Maui, so I have a lot of Maui community out there. And then, just the islands are all pretty tight, like when you know people, you know people. So I go back to Oahu and Big Island quite a bit, trying to go out there every at least couple months.
Mm, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's so interesting too because my brother, he's just about, I think, 15 months younger than me. He was
Yeah.
born in the Navy base on Oahu.
What?
So, so like I haven't been there as an adult either.
That's
Like
so
I've been all these places, but I haven't been to like I haven't retraced our family, like our
so
origins.
how long was it was your dad that was in the Navy, right?
Yeah.
How long was he in the Navy for?
Not very long. So, again, like you said, without diving too deep into the rabbit hole,
Yeah.
he and my mom got pregnant as teenagers. It was a time where you went, okay, well, now you're getting married. So they got pressured into getting married.
Mm,
And then it was like, well, what are you going to do to take care of your kid? And my mom's dad, World War II veteran, Navy and Marines actually, which is so
mhm,
interesting. But he was like, "Yeah, Navy's a good choice," right? And he kind of pushed him towards that, and so he joined the Navy. But it was really just like a have to, not like what's the best situation. And he ended up getting um, discharged dishonorably for substances and things like that.
mm,
But that was like after we had gone to Hawaii and my brother was born. So
wow,
ultimately, um, he didn't end up sticking around. So he
yeah,
took off shortly after we returned to California. So then I ended up being raised, by a single mom. And she obviously wasn't excited to go back to South Carolina anytime soon,
what?
so yeah. So we didn't end up going back. But yeah, I really love to travel and I love to see things. And I mean,
Yeah,
as far as history goes, I'm a super big history buff. I'd love to see South Carolina and, Hawaii for those same reasons.
yeah,
Um, so just fascinating though that you're such a new person in my life, but there's so many
yeah,
things already that it's just like, that
yeah.
kind of latch on,
It's so
so
funny to me.
naturally.
So
It's
funny.
crazy.
So you were a little guy then when you were in Hawaii, like 15 months or like less than 2 years, basically?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have
So I don't remember it.
any memories?
I don't
Yeah.
No, and it's now it's so crazy, right? Because of how life works. So when I was a
Yeah,
kid, I was always interested in learning and all that stuff, and I was I like to do everything, but I didn't really have like a super deep interest in like World War II history. I didn't have a super deep interest in fishing. I didn't have a super, like it was all sort of just like, what do I want to learn about and what do I want to be ultimately and what do I want to do? And now as an adult, uh, and a fly fisherman and an ocean fisherman, I think that I would just never want to leave Hawaii. And in terms of, just like how much I love history and all those things, I just think that I didn't appreciate the grandparents that I had when I had them, like as a kid. And I lost all my grandparents really young. I think my last grandparent died. I was in my young 20s. My grandma died, but all my grandpas died before I was 17. So,
yeah,
I didn't even get a chance to be mature enough to care about. They were in some really significant historical battles,
yeah,
and I just kind of took it for granted like, oh, my grandpa was a badass or whatever, but he was just like just grandpa to us at that point, just
yeah.
a funny old man who was really interesting, but I didn't care about his history as much as I should have.
It's so interesting, dude. Like, so the topic of like three generation families is something that absolutely fascinates me. Like, I think um, it's interesting. This is kind of where the convo is going because, so kind of answer your earlier question, like what brought my family out to Hawaii. It was actually a lot of PTSD that my grandpa went through after fighting as a Marine in World War II. And
Mhm.
he, by the way, also fought in the Korean War, and he was in Vietnam as well. So, which
Right.
is so crazy. Like, I didn't even know that like until a couple years ago. But what I do
Yeah.
remember growing up was having these like my our grandpa, he would send us just binders of World War II content, like things that he'd like a lot of reports that he gathered or he typed up.
Same.
Like,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
so wild. Like, so we were always watching the black and white movies, like, documentary military docs, mostly on the South Pacific side of the World War II. But my grandpa was one of the first people to land on Iwo Jima. Like, that was, it's like,
yeah.
it's a crazy, like, and he had Purple Heart, got injured almost immediately, and then just ran supplies for the rest of the campaign for just crazy stuff where,
Yeah.
like, lost his best friends, like, just stuff where it's like, oh yeah, they make movies about this kind of stuff, and yet it
Yes.
touched me left. But what's sad, really sad, is he had such PTSD, and then same similar substance stuff. Like, I think he really struggled with alcoholism. Um, that's what all like my dad, like all the siblings were just kind of like get as far away as possible in a sense.
Mhm.
And that's really kind of what brought him out to Hawaii. And then for me, I didn't really know any of them growing up because my mom, um, it's just so interesting. I knew my tutu, so that was my dad's mom. She would come out maybe once or twice a year to the islands, and she was always really spry and like fun. Like, I literally just remember she would bring like Pizza Hut pizzas. Like, it was like, it's like tutu. Oh, like we're gonna have a pizza party. Like this, like it was kind of the yearly tradition. But I didn't have relationships with grandparents growing up at all.
Mhm.
Like, at
Mhm.
all, at all, at all. So this idea of having another set of grown-ups who like love and support, it's not something that I mean, I just didn't experience that. And I'm not saying that's like, it's not like a sad thing for me. It's just interesting, like how I have some other friends that I grew up with, and Hawaii is very familial. So it's like all about family ohana. Like, you're just you're getting hana'd. Like, it's like we've talked about that. We get adopted basically by other people in the community. It's kind of like
Yeah.
mentors, but you think of them as parents. Um, so growing up, seeing that all around us, and then going, oh wow, we'd have grandparents day, and like we wouldn't have grandparents there basically. So it's like, oh, interesting. Like, what would that be like? And I've learned, and we also grew up very like religious, like very very like Baptist Christian, and so reading a lot of stories in the Bible about like multiple generations, like the Abraham, the Isaac, the Jacob, like the
Yep.
and just thinking about how mentorships work, and when you can have three like layers of people all looking out for each other. It's amazing. And I'm seeing it now, like in South Carolina, I'm experiencing being around grandparents for the first time because I'm around my parents while they're around their grandkids.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating, dude, like to see like this other set of people that they just want to love and support. Like it's like they're just there to pour into.
Absolutely.
Dude,
Absolutely.
it's amazing. Like,
I think it's definitely something that's it's so crucial, right? The idea of elders and the idea of the wisdom that comes down. And I think, not that I think, I have observed it's something we're losing, right? It's something we're losing as a people. It's something we're losing as a society. Um, all of our elders are getting dementia and Alzheimer's, and they don't even remember who they are or what they did, let alone find themselves in a place where they can pass down wisdom or, like, I essentially, because I grew up with a single mom, I essentially grew up with my grandmother. That was her mom, and her new husband, who also was, he had been in the Air Force, um, and prior to Vietnam, he worked for Aerojet. So he was one of the people who worked on the rockets that were trying to take the space shuttle to the moon for the first time in the '60s. Like he was a crazy mechanic. And so I grew up around with that, and I was with them a lot. And I think that when you talk about that familial support, uh, I've probably never experienced unconditional love anywhere else except for maybe my wife,
mm,
like I did from my grandparents. They were my grandpa that was in the war in World War II and all that stuff. He lived uh a few hours away up north in Northern California near a town called Paradise, which is was famous in the last few years because PG&E burnt it down to the ground.
mm,
So he lived just outside of Paradise, and so as a kid, we didn't he was also traveling the world all the time. He was in these groups that like did reunions and organized that. So he had not only the Navy stuff, but he also had the Marine stuff, because he
mm.
was Navy in World War II, Marines in Korea. It was wild. Um, but again, just like you were saying, so there was that kind of unconditional love that got passed down to grandkids. Um, like you still get it, but as you get older, especially nowadays, like then your grandparents just they start losing their minds, right? It's
Mhm,
something that I really think we need to figure out a solution for because, like right now, my job during the day, I work doing maintenance in a senior living community. And I just ask these people questions constantly. They have the most interesting lives. They've done the most interesting things. And I don't have any other elders or any other seniors in my life, in my family, that I can tap into for those kind of things. It's family is so important.
yeah.
But again, when you start talking about family, then I also have kind of interesting ideas about family because I think that you choose your family, right? Like, especially as you get older, you definitely choose who is your family. So, in terms of like South Carolina, um, how old were you when you guys moved out there?
Yeah, so, I still don't think that I've officially moved out here, that's the funny part.
Yeah.
Um, but to your point, so my parents, they came out 2 years ago. So they just did
Okay.
it was, December, I think, 2023. So right after the
Okay.
Maui fires happened, speaking of fires,
Yeah.
that's when, uh, basically I was like, "Hey, guys, this is your time, you gotta cash in your chips." Like, and I didn't think about it, but dude, when my parents moved out to Hawaii, there weren't there was like dirt roads to most parts of the island that they tried to get to. It
Yeah.
was, and I didn't ever experience that until I bought a house in 2020 or 2021 on the big island of Hawaii. And I grew up first world. Like, dude, like we had everything we needed in Maui. Like it was just town cities, just it was great. And then I moved over to the Big Island, bought this like fixer upper, trying to like, I want to be a man. Like speaking of maintenance, I was like, I'm gonna learn maintenance. I'm gonna do whatever I need. So I moved into a place that like didn't have water, didn't have electricity. Like literally, I was like, I had to go get a generator. I had to put stuff in. And I remember thinking, and it was a dirt road, like bumpy dirt road all the way up to my house. I remember thinking, oh my God, this is what mom and dad went through for I mean, they lived in the islands for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
And dude, it's not always fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's like crazy. I'm like, what an like, but I'm like, I started thinking because my family, we didn't tell each other a lot of stories. Like, I didn't know anything about my mom and my mom's side of the family. Also, side note, turns out they were all aerospace engineers. So my grandpa probably worked with yours on some level, dude.
It's
He was
weird, dude.
doing,
I'm telling you, it's
yeah,
weird stuff.
yeah, like they were literally doing like rocket design for the I think it was like Apollo 11 or like a few of those.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like
Yeah.
anyways, but so thinking that the last few years I started thinking, wow, my parents have made so many sacrifices, like pioneering, like being actual modern day pioneers, going out to Hawaii with like nothing. Like they just kind of closed on their back, finding jobs, making things work, having kids, raising kids, a lot of medical issues in my family growing up where they, you know, like I was a little kid, I had these like weird kidney problems. My parents went bankrupt trying to pay for, surgeries and things. So it was just one of those like I started, you kind of get to the end of of an era and you look back and then think back even a while before my time, man, my parents made sacrifices. So December 2023, it was like I knew because they had those Maui fires, so a lot of homes got burnt down. So you had people with like $1 million, checks, insurance checks, wanting to pay cash for a home. And I remember being like,
Right.
dude, you guys, you can just make $1 million right now. Like, sell your home. You can buy a home outright in South Carolina. Be close to the rest of the family. Go be grandparents. So that was that. So it was like, and then I went out for. I was gonna go for a couple weeks and help me get settled in. That turned into a few months, and
Yeah.
then back to the islands and back and forth. And so I've been like windshield wiping ever since for like just like Hawaii and then out here. But yeah, dude, it is so crazy. Like, I was so happy for them to like have a home because they didn't do a lot of financial planning. So, but the sacrifices they made allowed them to get into the homes that they were in, and a
Yeah.
home in Hawaii is just worth a lot.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, dude, for them it was really cool to see them actually come out here and be grandparents and like own their home and be just like. And honestly, too, there's like a lot better healthcare. And dude, it's funny that we're talking about parent stuff because I didn't think that I would be I'm 39 now, thinking, oh, how are we now? Like, I'm like just getting into that part, with starting to think, how do we take care of them now? Like, what's that going to look like for the
Yeah.
next 5, 10, 20,
Yeah.
hopefully more years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So pivoting a little bit,
Hmm.
um, the reason our introduction was made was um because of, well, I think there was a lot behind it, right? But the easy stuff on the surface is podcasting and production and music and and a lot of those things. Um what was the start of your journey into finding your way into this kind of thing that we're working on? Like talk to me a little bit about early work and how that, what led you into wanting to network and make connections, and how did we end up here?
Yeah. I was thinking back on that, kind of getting ready for this call. I've always been very networky and very entrepreneurial. So I remember in kindergarten, I was the kid that was like, "Oh, all the boys are over here and all the girls are over here, and the boys want to play a game where the girls chase them, and the girls want to play a game when the boys chase them." So I would like go in and intermediate and be like, "Okay, we've only got 20 minutes for recess, guys. So we'll do 10 minutes of like boys chasing the girls, and then we'll do 10 minutes of the girls chasing the boy. Okay, we got a deal?" Like, so I was like deal making as like a 5-year old. And then dude, my first business, my first job was just like scraping rotten mangoes off of the parking lot at my elementary school when I was in like third grade.
Yeah.
So then I did third grade, fourth grade, and I was like, I got to do something better. So then my dad was an office supply salesman, so I was constantly getting free office supplies. So I started like a shop in fifth grade, like selling pens and things, whatever, to like classmates, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was always like trying to like wheel and deal. And then I was also like the unofficial trader, like when kids would so I stopped packing lunches when I was in sixth grade and I just would go to school with like a box of Hostess cupcakes. And then like, I'm gonna trade for whatever I want the most,
Yeah.
basically. So like I kind of understood, okay, people want things and they did oftentimes kind of middle child syndrome too, where you're like, okay, I'm paying attention to everybody else and hearing what they're saying, but also hearing what they're not saying and what they
Yeah.
wish they'd be saying. And honestly, that's what drew me ultimately to production, was seeing people not saying the things that they really want to say, and knowing that there's that kind of that chasm between the person trying to communicate, the speaker and the listener, and then the speaker going, oh yeah, I said it exactly, like they got it, and then me looking at the listener going, they didn't get it, and then realizing, oh, you can build those bridges. So I started a production company in Hawaii called Bridgemore Media, and Moore is my last name. But like the real idea was just, oh, helping people to bridge between where they're at, where they want to be, what they think they're being understood as, and what they really are being understood as. So I started doing that. Yeah, dude. It was just fascinating work. Like I ended up working for a lot of nonprofits and kind of doing media campaigns, designing stuff, writing stuff, film stuff. And then I had a bunch of friends in Maui who just also serendipitously were into film production. So I was doing a lot of fun projects just
Um,
by talking to people and hearing stories and then sharing stories. So yeah, it was literally just that gear was always in me as long as I can remember, and it just feels really good to be creative and to get to use it. Ultimately, my thought process is to help people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I've always thought that people that have that skill naturally are fascinating, right?
Mhm.
Like I was a creative kid, um, but I also didn't really care much about what other people thought or had to say. It was like, let me tell you what I think, you know, and and then I had to slowly learn my way and mature my way around that. Because it was like, I just absolutely do not care what you're trying to tell me right now. Listen to what I'm trying to say. Um, it's an interesting skill for sure, to be able to facilitate and mediate for people, and
Bro.
and to get them on board is completely like, what?
Mhm.
I always hated the idea of being a salesperson, right? Like I always felt like I hate when people try to convince me that I need something or I need to do something or I need to say something or I need to go somewhere. Don't try to convince me. What's your agenda here, right? And so I avoided that like the plague. Um so I'm not trying to talk you into anything. I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't want to tell you where to go. I don't want to, um, but it's interesting there's a skill in being able to go, I can identify what you need, because and I think this is the component that I didn't have as a kid. If you can be an active listener, then you're not selling anyone. You're just providing people with what you hear them saying their needs are, right? And that took a long time for me to grasp that concept, because I was just like, just don't tell me what I need. Don't tell me what's good for me. Don't tell me what's bad for me. Don't tell me anything. Just, like, fine, it worked for you. Great. Like I'll listen to an anecdotal story, but when you start telling me that I have to do this or I need that, I'm instantly turned off.
Dude, I'll tell you about that. Like, I hate manipulation techniques, like, especially in sales, especially in marketing, probably to my detriment, honestly. Cause, like, I'm not usually like a 49.97 person. It's like, dude, if it's 5 grand, just call it 5 grand. Like,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
it just, if it helps them, great. And if it doesn't help them, then why would I try to twist somebody's arm? Or because I wouldn't want my arm twisted
Yeah.
trying to buy or something that I don't actually need. Or, yeah, dude, it just bugs me to like no end. And I have so it's a kind of a silly but sort of funny story about it. So in fifth grade, um, selling pens, right? So my dad was very much a practical joker. So that was a fun part of our family. And it also had this other side of you just never knew. Like we call my dad to this day like the ultimate troll. Like it's like trolling, like that's my dad. So he like brings this box of pens home. He's like, dude, Brett, these are glow in the dark pens. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I like tried to like take the pen and like see it and he's like, oh, I'm like, it doesn't glow. He's like, it only glows at night. I was like, whoa. So what do? I go to school the next day and I sell all the kids in my class magical pens that only glow in the dark at night. And what ends up happening the next day, I've got like 20 customers who are like, we want our money back. Dude, it's like so side note. Um, I also love Dave Chappelle, like stand-up comedy, anything comedy. I was watching the other day, one of his specials. I guess he had bombed at one of his shows, and he's like sharing this whole story about it. And he said that they had this like at this stadium, like they were all chanting, like, "We want our money back." And he's like, "Good people." I think it was in Detroit. He's like, "You are never getting your money back."
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
dude, but the and so it's like I laugh at that, seeing somebody else like telling a funny story about how they disappointed whatever 20,000 people, whoever. And then I think back, oh my gosh, I remember in fifth grade, I disappointed 20 people and it would just broke me. Like that feeling of like, that's actually, talk about core memories. I remember thinking, I feel so misunderstood. Like, because I did not try to cheat anybody or do anything bad or whatever. But it's like, wow, just because of being trolled and then
Yeah.
that cycle kind of moving forward. Dude, it's the worst feeling when you're just like, I'm truly not able to explain myself or like able to like, here's what really happened kind of deal. It's like nobody wanted to know what really happened.
Right, right,
It's
right.
such a wild like, and it's those little things like that can like pop right back.
It's interesting that you use the word manipulation. I mean, and because now that I'm thinking about it, so my brother and I are very alike in our sense of humor and our our charm, I guess, would be the way to use it. And the the people in our family up the line, very charming, right? Very good at manipulating. And like on the male side, it was manipulating to get what you want.
Mm,
Because for like just whatever I want, right? I can get out of you one way or another. And on the maternal side, it was for control.
mm,
So I grew up in a situation where there was one of two reasons why you were trying to get me to do anything. It was to get something out of me for you that you wanted or to control me. And I was not interested in either of those things from the from birth, I think, right? Like I was like, I hate being manipulated and I hate that feeling so bad that I'm going to teach myself never to manipulate anyone because I know that right now I could talk you into doing anything I want, right? I
wow.
could do it. I could turn it on and I could abuse it and I could have whatever I want from whoever I want. And I would feel like a horrible dirtbag, like I would feel awful. Um,
Mm,
it's interesting because like I don't know where that conscience about it came from, because I certainly wasn't in the environment where people were going, "Don't do this." They were modeling the behavior, right? Um, so I think that's where the aversion to, I don't want to sell you anything. But I also wanted to be, I wanted to be respected as a source of where you can get what you need if I can help you get what you need, but you're going to have to show me that you want it, and you're going to have to be the one getting it, right? I don't want there to be any chance that you can come back to me and go, "Hey, my pen doesn't glow in the dark." Right?
Mhm,
I was so afraid of that, right? I was so afraid of it because I thought like you, there's no way I'm gonna be able to convince somebody after the fact that I wasn't just trying to rip them off, right?
mhm,
And I've had enough just a few of those scenarios when I was young that still kinda make me feel, like, greasy and not right, where I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. I don't like how that went. I remember it, and it's so, like, so close to the surface, I don't wanna have anything to do with it. So I think that's interesting that it's kept me away from sales, um, but what it did allow me to do was as I matured and as I processed through that, um, it enabled me to be able to learn some active listening and start identifying what people wanted by what they were actually by their not just the words that were coming out of their mouth, but by their body language, by how they, how they were acting, by just in general, and then go, "Hey, this is something that I can help with if you're ever interested," and then just leave it at that. Um, but I always think that having that natural skill or maybe learning active listening younger, is such a cool thing. Like, I wish I could have had it because I would have saved myself so much grief and heartache, as I was growing up.
dude,
That's funny.
so, just on your note about active listening, so I there's a organization called Clemmer, and one of my Hanai parents. So this is like a couple who like totally adopted me in my mid 20s when I was living on Maui, going to a church out there, and I was like doing a lot of music in different churches and trying to do a lot of help in different like nonprofits, ministries, and things. And what was it's so interesting because on one hand, looking back, I remember, oh yeah, every Friday night or every Sunday morning, I'd get up on a stage and play music and like lead hundreds or thousands of people
Yeah.
in musical experiences. And that's like, on one hand, so I've learned a lot about, well, like, what was that? Like, what's the difference between leadership and manipulation? Because I also ended up seeing a lot of different like religious leaders be very manipulative over the
For
years.
sure. For
Dude,
sure.
totally. And then I saw other ones who were just like actually unconditional love. Like I have a few people, few pastors, few that I've known throughout my life where I'm like, dude, they just had such pure hearts, like such pure motives. And is
Yeah.
anybody perfect? Like totally up for debate. But the I've seen I have that kind of sense, but going back to what I was saying about Clemmer, this Hanai family that adopted me, they were like, Brett, there's a leadership training that teaches active listening, and we really think it'd be cool for you to go attend. So it was like a weekend seminar at some hotel in Maui.
Mm.
Dude, it was crazy cool. Like they just we're not actually supposed to talk a lot about the details of it, but basically you just learn through playing games. And
Yeah.
it was amazing. Like I learned so much about myself. And there was one moment though I can share where like they had you just partner up with somebody that usually you don't know, if somebody you didn't go to the conference with, and you just like eye gaze for like 10 minutes. And it's so crazy, dude. Like not that wasn't even talking. It's just eye to eye contact.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes in, you're both crying. Like just it's like peering into someone's soul. It's so wild to me. So
Yeah,
that
people
was
aren't I mean, who's even used to being looked at in the eyes these days, right? I mean, like, let alone for 10 straight minutes. That's
yeah.
crazy.
And the wild part was like it being the only prompt was accept the person that you're face to face with. So it's like you're just silently offering acceptance to them while maintaining eye contact for like 10
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Dude, it was one of the most powerful moments in my life. Like I still remember the name of the person who I've never talked to since. And this was I was probably 24, 25 at the time. Like, but I remember her face, I remember her name, like I remember like the big hug that we gave each other at the end of that segment of that seminar. But
Yeah.
so there was that, and then there was truly learning active listening techniques. And it was so interesting because like they weren't teaching from a manipulative place. They were just teaching like it wasn't like here's how to use active listening to sell anyone anything. It was just
Right.
they were basically like here's how to be a leader. Here's how to just be a person. Here's how to be helpful in your community. And man, I remember they talked about don't think about your response while you're listening to the person. And for
Yeah.
me, it was so hard because I grew up needing to either people please or to escape people pleasing. Like,
Mm,
so kind of similar to what you're mentioning, kind of growing up,
yeah.
it's like, I don't want to be manipulated and I'll manipulate people if I have to get away from things or try to feel safe, but I don't want to participate in that. It's so hard to almost, I would say probably impossible to use active listening when you're not just present and when you don't feel safe. So to
Yeah.
me, it's been amazing to feel like even down to the I don't have to worry about what I say next. That's a huge part of what got me to be a producer was
Yeah.
helping people to be safe, to feel secure in their own body. Like, dude, even because so we kind of talked about this. I also used to teach music lessons. I did it for like 8 years in Hawaii. I literally could always tell when someone was trying to do something for the first time in front of me on an instrument. I knew they were going to get uncomfortable and I knew their toes were going to scrunch up and their feet were going to tense up. And
Right.
so, like, it became like a running joke. Like, anytime I would do a lesson with a student and they'd be trying something, I wouldn't even have to look at their feet. Like, hey, you got to relax your feet. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah. And you just see, like, oh,
The
it's like
shoulders
sigh of
falling.
relief. Yeah. Because that
Yeah.
music too, right? So much of, like, to me, great musicians are active listeners.
For
Like,
sure. For
yeah,
sure.
it's so and speaking of eye contact too, dude, like, I mean, I grew up did you play music in church or anything growing up, or, like, did you
That's where I got started.
Yeah,
I was
same.
15, so I was teenager, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's how I got started.
Dude, I was 13 doing the same thing, right? And, like, it was interesting too because I was, like, just, very much better than the most of the other
Right.
grown-ups that were playing around, right? Like, not at first, but I was 13 years old, had nothing to do, I had nowhere to go, so I was practicing music 9 hours a day, basically,
Right. Right.
like, just tearing through stuff, and
Yeah.
then it was right when, like, tabs started to come out, so my I remember, like, 9th grade, 8th grade, being like, "Oh my gosh, John Mayer's Room for Squares is out. I can actually break down the tab for Neon and for, like, No Such Thing," and I'm, like, learning all these crazy chords, whatever, but I remember watching musicians avoid eye contact and be tense and not listen to each other.
Yeah.
And more than that, I learned, like, I would see people because we would do, like, the church world, right? So it's like music practice, whatever, Wednesday night or Thursday night or whatever it is, and it's kind of a social hangout for musician people, but usually for insecure ones, they're just trying to memorize their part.
Right.
Like,
Right.
they're not it's like if you wanna play with them, they're doing their best to memorize their lines, but they're not acting, like, they're not present in, it's like it's there's this otherness. That's the thing. I saw it in music, and then I saw it in conversations, I saw it in pastors trying to give messages, I saw it in people trying to, like, communicate, and that's the thing for me more than anything else in life where I've wanted to attack it like with unconditional love
Yeah.
and be like, you are safe, like you're accepted, like you're coming from acceptance, like you're not playing music or you're not singing or you're not sharing this podcast in whatever for acceptance. It's from acceptance. Like, you're not
Yeah.
doing this to get love, you're doing this from a place of love. And it's amazing, dude, when you see that happen. It's like game changer.
It's a massive distinction, and I think it's so important. I relate to it so much because when I was a kid, um, I wanted to help, right? But my way of helping was by saying, "Do it this way," right? Or I'm going to just tell you the unfiltered truth now,
Mhm.
and you should just appreciate it because obviously I love and respect you enough that I think you can handle the full unbridled truth. I mean, dude, like I said, I was an immature kid, well read, but like I read more than I understood, probably like every kid. Um, so that's an interesting thing because as we talk about the project that we, are releasing, which I'm super excited to talk about, but, um, as I got into production and as I made my way through the technical aspect of it, um, all of those things that I learned in music and, and through church and through, producing people, and like I've been extremely blessed and fortunate to have had the opportunity to produce some really crazy, guests, right? Like really crazy people for their podcasts. Like people that I never would be in the same circle for, for whatever reason. And now all of a sudden I'm here, and we're doing it.
Leading them
Um,
through experiences. Yeah.
that's it. And when you talk about insecurity, right? So I get a billionaire speaker that's paid massive amounts of money to go do speaking engagements all around the world, right? And he comes into the studio and does he want to tell me his investment secrets or does he want to sign me up for his program? No. He wants to make sure that his lighting's good and that he sounds good, that his camera's good, and that
Mhm,
somebody's paying attention to how we present him, you know?
mhm,
And so what I found that I felt what made me fall in love with producing is I went, "Oh, they're coming to me already with something they need, and it's something I don't even have to think about to be able to provide to them," right? You get a type D personality, if you're into the disc profiles or, and any of that stuff, if anybody out there has listened to those or done those themselves, the dominant driver asks a question and they want a very short, the shortest, most succinct, direct answer to the question that they can get. So they don't want to go, does my mic sound okay? And you go, oh, well, people that use the Rode Pod mic have a tendency to have a little bit of a tinny ups. They want me to go, yes,
mhm.
right? Like, yeah, you sound great. That's it. And then they go, oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. How's my lighting? And I go, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't love the wall behind you. Do you have another wall you can go to? And then they go, oh yeah. Let me see. And then all of a sudden, I'm not talking to some billionaire. I'm talking to a dude who wants to make sure he doesn't look dumb when he does his podcast. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? And so I was able to inject love by giving people what they're hoping for when they show up to have a conversation, right? By
mhm.
by being that. Now, I don't have to go, "Hey, I'm the subject matter expert here. Listen to me when I tell you to do this." I just sit back and go, "How's it going?" Like what are you doing? What do like authentically come in, call them by their first name, like make them feel comfortable. And then when they ask me questions, just go answer in the way that is appropriate because I can tell what kind of communicator they are by the questions they're asking. Um,
By the way,
it made
love what you're saying.
'Cause it made me fall in love with it, right? The authenticity of that conversation. Now I'm just talking to another human, human to human. There's no levels to it. And then they come on and they do their thing and you're like, "Oh, that was awesome." And then then they're grateful, to you for having just been there and helped them and stood alongside them because that's what people really want, right? And I think so as we start talking about Apex, I want to shift into that because I want to start talking about Apex.
Mhm,
Um, when we sat down, when we first made it through that initial like, okay, well, you're clearly my brother. We're gonna figure out how to work together. When we figured that out, we started having a conversation about what the most important things were going to be. Um, if we were going to offer something to someone, what are the core values that we each are bringing? And what I love the most about Apex is that both of us came forward with authenticity,
mhm.
right? I watch so many podcasts and I listen to so much content, these days. And the difference between the podcast I skip past in the first 10 seconds or the one that I listen to for 3 straight hours is, am I getting authentic content right now? Is there an authentic conversation happening right now? Or is this pre-scripted and I'm being sold? Or is it, does this person feel like they have a character to represent and so I can watch them doing their character? I'm not interested in any of that, right? This world right now needs people to be having authentic, real conversations with each other about how they authentically really feel. And so enter Apex, right? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, dude.
2026, baby, Apex.
Look, we're going for it, man. I I love what you're talking about. The fact that we both have the core value foundation of authenticity. It to me, that was just like such a green light for Apex, dude. Like I was
Yeah,
so stoked
yeah,
because again, like I can tell when, and I get it. Like we all have personal lives and there are things that we want to kind of keep safe or gated or in and then there's straight up like NDAs and things where it's like certain people can't talk about certain things. But
sure.
what I'm super passionate about with Apex, which is basically we're launching this podcast production company. I really think of it as we are producers, like having producers hearts who want to help people step into their authenticity and stay in their authenticity and get so comfortable in their authenticity that it feels natural. Like, and because my by the way, we haven't really talked about my underlining philosophy on this, but I actually believe that people are good. like I believe in the fundamental goodness of people.
Yeah,
And I believe that when people get in their own heads or let like lies and junk or insecurities like get in there, that it messes with their head, and then it messes with their belief, their comfort, their real true state. And that's where weird things happen, like glitches in people's like thought process or their communication. Like it's all someone getting thrown off their own authentic foundation. And so to me,
yeah,
like us being able to be like, no, 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 like this, like we're clearly seeing this is you. You're clearly passionate about this or that. Like just be this, just be that. Like it's all good. Just be you. Just trust yourself. Like, and there's probably a term for this where it's not just active listening, but it's like active being. Like be like, I mean, it's authenticity.
active presence, right? Or like
Presence.
whatever
Yeah, it
whatever
really
that
is.
is. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's like, dude, I spent all of 2025 working with real estate agents trying to help them record video content remotely. And so many of them, it's just like in church music or any music, like there's the Dave Matthews Band style, right? It's like, dude, just they know their songs, but they're gonna jam and they're gonna be authentic and
right.
unique show to show, right? Like it's in they're improvising a lot. And then there's the bands that like it's a backing track. They're using a click. Like they're locked in. And they're scripted, so to speak. And that's cool. Like it's like I'm a fan of both. I really am. So when people not in music but in like video production, when they need a script or a prompt or something, it's like that can be fine. But when it's because it's a crutch, that's when I know, like, you're you gotta flip the pancake over. Like, try the other side of this. Try to just be authentic. Try to just what's on your heart. Like, and I find that people when it's long form content, it gives them that breathing space to be able
Yeah,
to gradually kind of get into the hot tub and acclimate to the temperature of being on a recorded call. So that gets me really pumped to think about,
yeah,
wow, we're going to help people create long form content and create short form content from the long forms, but not just like, here's your 5-second prompt script, read your teleprompter. Like, dude, I tried all of it this year, like
right.
every tool. Like I've seen what
Yeah,
works, I've totally seen what doesn't work.
yeah,
Like, because I think ultimately, dude, like even if it's a real estate agent or if it's a business leader, or it's an executive or someone, they might have a great script or have a great prompt, or it's like, oh, I got my curiosity hook that I wanted, or I got my, whatever. Like, if they're not, if being their authentic self, it's just, it doesn't work. Like, it's like,
that's right.
yeah,
It's
it just doesn't work.
cold. It's cold, it's typically hard to follow and stay interested in.
Mhm.
Um, and I think too that the beautiful thing about this, this model is that from the beginning, right? From the initial conversation we have with someone about the possibility of producing their podcast, we're immediately launching into, okay, who are you? What's your authentic self look like? I
Mhm.
think, and I actually got this crazy idea while you were talking, but I was like, man, I think we should incorporate that just staring into each other's eyes for 5 minutes as part of our onboarding, dude, I want to see some podcasters crying, but I think
Mhm.
most of the thing about podcast production, right, is we're in this society and in this culture where everyone has access to a portable podcast studio in their pocket, right? Anyone can sit down, aim a camera at themselves, hit the button, say something, and have it be online immediately, right? Like you don't even have to really even have anything to say, right? At this point, short form content has almost become like its own alien language, that it's almost impossible to figure out, how to swim past the algorithm because it moves so fast. But the beauty about long form content is you get a chance to unpack, right? You get a chance to have feelings. You get a chance to think. You get a chance to breathe. And part of the philosophy of Sweeter After Difficulty, you know, if you've watched any of these shows, you'll notice that sometimes I'll ask somebody a question and there'll be a 5 or 6 second pause of dead, straight, silent air, right?
Mhm.
And I never edit that out. I leave that in intentionally because I want everybody to have the opportunity to take a breath and think about what we're talking about, and give yourself a chance to think about what the conversation is and how you feel about it. Um, I think that the boom, 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 boom cutting style is great for like sports highlight videos. But when you're talking about authentic conversation, when I'm talking to you or I'm talking to a friend around the campfire, there's sometimes 10 minutes where we don't say a word to each other. There's sometimes, that time where we're all just staring into the fire, like processing our feelings. Um, the feeling like you need to have something to say all the time, immediately, or that everything you have to say needs to be impacting and have maximum effect. These are all just, comparative ideas, I think, because most of us are inspired to do a podcast by seeing someone else do it, right? We go, "Oh, that podcast was cool. I could do that." Um, and then you turn the camera on and you go, "Duh." Like, "What? Oh, it turns out I can't just do this," right? Like, or I can do it, but nobody cares or it's not interesting. We've been very intentional in the planning of this and how it's gonna roll out and how we start. So, I wanna take a little bit of time, to talk about this sort of process that, you've developed on the onboarding side, on the business end. The process of getting started and figuring out who you are as a host and what that means. Talk to us a little bit about the process that you put together.
Dude, yeah. So, well, going back, I would say my understanding of archetypes and is based on the disc test that you were mentioning earlier, but I learned about it in its kind of older form, the four temperaments, right? And so that was kind of ancient Greece,
Uh-huh.
basically, are and they associated with four different, fire, which is dominant, or wind, which was influencer, or water, which is supporter, or earth, which is the controller types. And then I learned about, is somebody, so are they extroverted or are they introverted? Because if they're extroverted, they're either going to be more dominant led or more influencer led, like D or I. And then if they're introverted, they're going to be more supporter, or they're going to be more controller. And then, so the Greek words for those, right? They're so sanguine, that's like my primary type, right? Extra people oriented extrovert, right? But then there's the choleric, the task oriented extrovert. And then there's those two types of introverts, the phlegmatic, which is the supporter introvert, people oriented introvert, and then the controller or the melancholic, who's the, task oriented introvert. I didn't get along with task oriented, the C's and D's growing up. Like I just wanted to be because the controllers were too wanting specific, like everything to be too specific for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, so annoyed. And then the dominants were trying to like dominate everybody, and I was like, you guys are insensitive dicks. Like,
Right.
even as a first grader, I was like, oh my
Right.
gosh.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I like always had this, why can't people understand themselves? And truthfully, it's like, dude, we could all work on better understanding ourselves. I think it's one of the great mysteries that's like hidden for us to discover is the everlasting nature of ourselves. It's like it's actually really amazing.
Yeah.
But the concept of what we're talking about is going from, yeah, so disc test and like how does someone be a host or be a guest, like how are they going to kind of show up. But then what I also did was I did in this whole last year, I spent 12 months doing a deep dive analysis of the top 100 podcast hosts in the world. And I mean, honestly, more of them, but like 100 is kind of a good round number. Started out with 100 and then went beyond that. And I just started seeing trends. And I was also using a bunch of AI tools to help me recognize communication patterns within these different podcast hosts. And I kind of found, oh, there are archetypes. Like, generally speaking, someone leads with a more entertaining, like, edge, or a more educational professor making, frameworks for people edge, or just a middle finger challenger edge, like challenging ways of thinking, challenging people. And
Yeah.
then there are the storyteller, narrative, journalist style people. And then there are the philosopher style people, and really great hosts, just like really great people, like who are communicating. We'll get a little philosophical here and there. We might get more challenging. If you're a D, you're going to probably lead with that more often, or be really comfortable there. So I just started seeing, oh, whether you're a host or whether you're, and the thing that was fascinating to me, I was just trying to analyze the hosts. But then as I analyzed all these different podcasts, I realized all of their guests follow the same framework. Like, it's like, wow, you could be an entertainer host, you could be a like professor host, a challenger host, a narrative journalist host, or you could be a philosopher style host. And same with the guests. And then I started thinking about, well, if there's archetypes, there's probably sub archetypes. So it's like that gets into more like Myers Briggs, right? Where you have these dominant personalities and then you have dominant secondary, tertiary traits. So
Right.
without getting super in the weeds, I realized, oh, this is a really easy thing to just like, so I have an assessment that I created. It's really simple. It's like 20 questions on what kind of a host guest are you? And then, so what I'd really like, dream of dreams is to be able, with our hosts for Apex and for our like whatever guest network that we build up for that we just kind of encourage people like, hey, take 5 minutes, really simple, fill out this form, get an idea for what kind of a communicator you are. And this is the type of communicator you're going to be on a podcast with today as a host or co-host or whatever. It's actually really incredible. I've been testing this out with just different people that I've been producing this year,
Yeah.
and even for myself, dude, it has helped me so much to be able to think, oh, I'm going into philosopher bunny trail mode right now. I got to come back into, like, I was asked the narrative question. So let me get back to the story that Randy was asking. He literally, in this conversation, I'm
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, I'm kind of helping to guide myself back in. It's pretty
Yeah.
wild. So that's, I don't know if that kind of answers the question, but that's the
No,
big
it
part.
it totally does. It's an incredible assessment, and I think it's like anything else, right? So the there's a reason why we're harping so much on authenticity in this conversation, right? And that's because I've known people who have taken the DISC assessment or even the Enneagram assessment, and they see a question, and it instead of answering how they authentically feel, they answer with what they hope or wish or want to believe is true about
Mhm.
themselves. And the disservice that you're doing to yourself is the most amazing thing is when somebody says something to me from a complete place of authenticity, and it's a perspective that I've never not only never thought of, but I couldn't even get to that point with the way that I think, right? And so all
Mhm.
of a sudden, I'm blindsided by this amazing perspective, um, and I would never get there if I already had an idea of what I wanted it to look like on the other side, right? I would just constantly have disappointment. It would
Mhm.
be, well, I wanna believe that I'm, this meek, mild-mannered person who would never throw up their middle finger, but the reality is it's not. I have hard opinions, and I'm confident, and, I'm gonna push, and I'm gonna, those are the attributes that I'm gonna bring to the table. Um, and I think being fair, right, and giving myself the option to be authentic. I'm the most excited with Apex about that unlocking for people their authentic self. The
Okay,
money
on that note, dude,
aside,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah, everything else is a bonus to me.
it's a
Like,
bonus. It's just gravy, right? Because what is more exciting than seeing someone start out in a place where maybe they're not even sure how to be honest with themselves, we talk about it on Sweeter After Difficulty a lot, personal honesty, putting yourself to the test,
mhm,
evaluating your motives, bringing your ego to the surface and putting a big magnifying glass on it and finding out what your real motivations are. I think that it is absolutely something that I wouldn't have thought of to put together an assessment for how to be a host, because I'm just like the guy who comes in and goes, "Let's throw some color on this, let's see, let's organize this." Intuitive in the conversation. Active listening has become like an autopilot, right? So it's something that I do, and one of my strengths is I'm able to process quickly, right? I'm able to hear and make associations quickly. It's just something my brother has it too, right? It is also what would make us great manipulators if we wanted to employ it, right? Because I can give you a fast, greasy answer that will satisfy you right now,
mhm,
even if it's going to make you sick later. But I'm trying to avoid that, right? I'm trying to cut
yeah.
that unhealthy part out of my life.
Dude, my
So
my thing for last year and this year is this gonna help me sleep at night? Like
yes,
that's my whole thing, dude. I'm at that point where I'm like, if there's anything in my life that I'm gonna be staying up late worrying about or thinking about, it's like it's just not worth it, dude.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think about that with a lot of our potential clients, like kind of people who they they just they would just want to know that we truly care about them, like that we actually are concerned about them and
yeah,
in them being themselves, which I think it's so rare, dude. Like, did you see it even like at a fast food place? I remember one of my jobs in high school, I worked at a bookstore, and I like there are good things about me and junk things about me. Like there were two times probably I forgot to lock the door, like when I was supposed to close up, because I'm that people oriented extrovert. So like getting ready to lock up and then seeing a friend walk by, I go like, oh my gosh, how's it going? And then boom, squirrel. But like every weakness has a strength, every strength has a weakness. In that case, dude, I would go 150% for every single customer that walked through our doors. Like we had free gift wrapping at Christmas. I remember being like, I will make you the most beautiful like gift wrap stuff in the entire world. And it was I remember actually like my boss telling me once, she's like, Brad, like there's like stuff that you're just so forgetful about. But but the thing that I'm so grateful for is how much you care about our customers.
yeah,
Like you
yeah,
really care. So, and what's funny for me to just, because you were saying earlier, like maybe not wanting to be seen so much as having dominant characteristics, but then recognizing you do. I want to be seen like I have a bunch of dominant characteristics. But if
Isn't
I'm
that funny?
really,
It's
really,
so it's so how it is, and
really,
so I think the beautiful thing about that is the the process that we've gone through to put together this, this sort of examination of bringing our characteristics to the light is there's absolute strength and beauty in every single archetype. No matter
Mhm,
what you have to say and no matter where it comes from, if you can say it with an open heart and with your authentic self, it's going to reach the people that it needs to reach, right?
mhm,
It's going to reach the people it needs to reach way more than being inauthentic is going to reach the people you want it to reach, right? So
100%.
I think that's like such an important philosophy that, again, newer podcasters or newer people who are just trying to figure out how to create content, they lose that because it's like, well, I want to sound like Rogan, or I want to sound like, Alex Hormozy, or I want to be as confident as, Grant Cardone or whatever when I'm up there talking. Um, but the thing is, not everyone relates to those people, right? Not
Mhm.
everyone will get the most out of talking to them. So I've had people in my life who were flat out turned off. You could see their face switch off by me being just a little bit too aggressively confident about something,
Mhm.
right? Not and for their with the intention to better someone, but just in a way that they weren't comfortable with, and they went, "Ah, like, okay, you're just trying to change me," and it's like, "No, no, 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 no. I just want to help. I just want to help. Accept my love," like squeeze them to death.
Mhm.
Accept my love. Um, you you can you can set out to be all things to all men, but you're going to, when you put out something like a podcast or like a song or like a book or whatever you put out, right? You have zero control and zero impact on how it's received and who it's received by,
Dude, I
right?
have a interesting story about that. So my buddy Chris, he's in the music industry. He picks out he's a music supervisor, so he picks out the songs that are used in like Vampire Diaries and like
Uh,
other shows on CW and other shows for Warner Media. And I remember asking him this a few years ago, like, Chris, what what instantly turns you off about a song and what instantly gets your attention about a song? And
yeah,
I'll give you one guess, dude, what he said. It's authenticity. And
absolutely.
I remember it was so interesting. And dude, he's the guy that discovered Billie Eilish. Like, even put her music on Vampire Diaries before anybody else really did. Like,
Yeah,
so many huge. Like, he's launched over 1,000 different music careers.
yeah,
Crazy cool. But I remember him telling me there was a song that somebody wanted to get on the show, and he like he could tell they wrote it for like Anywhere USA. It was like some sort of love song, and his feedback was he went back to them and it was like, "Hey, this is actually there's something here, but use the name of the street that you grew up on that you actually fell in love on. Like, use the name of your hometown. Use the literally just
yes,
be specific, be authentic, be as real as possible." He's like,
yeah,
if we end up wanting to like make turn something into some big national hit, we can always make things a little bit more vague for you, but we can never make things more authentic for you. And it was such a fascinating, like, just brilliant, like, eye-opening response because he's very much himself too. Like, dude, coolest guy. Like, he was literally going his he told his parents at like 14, he's like, I want to start DJing. I'm gonna start going to Mexico and doing that. And he would go down to Mexico by himself and go like DJ at clubs and things.
yeah,
Just he's super passionate about music, dude. Crazy
yeah.
cool stories. Like, wild dude, really cool. Very much himself. And then look at where his success has led him, being authentic and encouraging people to be authentic. So wild.
I think that if you want to put it to the test, right? Go look at what kind of music is currently making a resurgence and
Mhm.
working its way up the charts, right? This last like in the last 2 or 3 years, I've discovered artists like Coulter Wall and like Tyler Childers and people where Oliver Anthony, right? Like whatever
Mhm.
you think of him. Um, but this is really just a southern dude standing on a hill singing about how shitty his life is,
Mhm.
and people go, "Hey, my life's shitty too." Like I
Mhm.
relate to that, and then they go, "Okay, somebody out here is being my voice." And
Mhm.
that is like when I think about that, giving voice to the voiceless, right? You're not going to be able to connect to those people and you're not going to be able to maintain a connection if it's not authentic because you're not going to care and it's going to be obvious, right? You
Mhm.
can only love something authentically that you truly love. Otherwise, it's just pretending. Um, it's interesting too. My wife and I watch the A&E version of Pride and Prejudice a lot. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really good. It's like one of the better book adaptations I've ever seen in a, a movie format. Um but one of the characters in there, the main characters is Mr. Darcy. And in one of the scenes, he's explaining his feelings to the other main character, who's like a on-off love interest. They like hate each other through the whole thing or whatever. And she's mad at him because he's a jerk. Like he's a rich guy and he's been raised rich and he's selfish and he doesn't know how to be any other way. And in his letter that he wrote her, he says, "A counterfeit of any kind is my abhorrence."
Wow.
And I think it's such a powerful line, right?
Hmm.
Fine you have a gimmick, or fine you wanna reach somebody, or fine you have a target audience, right? But if you're going to truly connect with people, which is what we're interested in doing, what I'm interested in doing, that's the whole point of this podcast for me, is just to gain perspective and, and love people and get to know people and hear other ways of thinking about it and learn how to love people better, right?
Hmm.
The only way I'm going to do that is authentically. A counterfeit is not going to work,
Dude,
right?
so I could get into all the psychographic information on the types of audiences that we're trying to help people build, but all of that doesn't matter if authenticity isn't there. And
That's right.
if you it's like what I would tell students, like if they instantly, like music students, if they instantly want to get better at playing guitar, playing bass, or playing whatever instrument, relax. So you could be in two different states. You could be in an authentic, relaxed state, or you could be in an inauthentic, forced state. And if you're whatever, basically, I used to tell students, if you practice tense, you're going to play tense, you're going to perform tense. If you practice relaxed, you're going to play tense, you're going to sing. Or so if you practice relaxed, you're going to play relaxed, you're going to sing relaxed. Like so many of my vocal issues, because I ended up doing like a few years of, actually like 10 years of voice lessons, was because I wouldn't relax my larynx.
Yep.
Dude, it literally just came down to I'm a bad singer versus like, oh, I'm a good singer. Like, well, who knew? And
Yeah.
and for me, even in singing, I was just trying to be other people. Like I wasn't just letting myself, be in my range, be in my tone, like just
I
be.
mean, put down in the comments, any singers out there? You know exactly what Brett's describing right now because we've all done that at one point or another, right? Your influences are right there on your sleeve. Everyone goes,
Mhm.
"Oh, this guy loves Stone Temple Pilots" or whatever,
Yeah,
uh
that's literally the best thing of mine.
so crazy. And
But
it's interesting, like, because I can't let a whole podcast episode go without bringing up jujitsu at least one time. But one of
Mhm,
the things that we say in combat sports is train like you fight, right? And
mhm.
so that's kind of my philosophy with this too, is um I want people to learn to be their authentic selves. The only way I'm going to do that is by training to be my authentic self as much as I can. Um,
Mhm.
Again, it's why I don't spend a lot of time editing mistakes out or spaces out or whatever. It's because for all the people that I won't ever reach with my message or my content or my type of show, there are people out there who I will only reach by relating to them on some sort of level that would never get brought up unless I was being truly authentic.
Th
Um, it,
that's it. And what's amazing too is like this underlining belief, that I think we both have, that there's goodness in people. Like there's expertise, there's intelligence, there's gifts, there's talents. There are things inside of each of us that will resonate with other people.
yeah,
And the interesting thing, dude, there are tools, like algorithms are basically audience builders, but it's digitally designed. And so the to me the best opportunity that we all have is be yourself. Just be real, be honest,
yeah,
and then it's like the next step is, yeah, sure, like we can sharpen up a talking point or a way of thinking. Like I think that's a great thing. Like being able
Yeah.
to to build, knowledge upon wisdom, to build strength. Like you said, to train basically. Like you want to train. We do want to train, so we can get better at whatever it is that we're trying to do. But yeah, dude, that authentic foundation, man, it is. And truthfully, I think enough people doing that on a micro level will have macro effects on culture and on subcultures.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the dream, right? Is that you'll be able to contribute in some way to a culture of authenticity that just takes over. Not that I have these illusions that I'm gonna be a driver in that, but, honestly, like, some people hear that there's an evaluation, and that we're gonna help you identify yourself as a who you are as a host or as a guest, and then they go, "Oh, well, you're just it's not gonna be my show then, you're just
You
gonna try to control it."
you
And
put me in the box. Yeah.
the opposite of it is the truth, right?
Mhm.
We want it to truly be your content, your conversations,
Yeah.
your authentic self speaking to the people out there that need your authentic self. And if you don't believe that there's people out there consuming self-help content, uh just
Mhm.
look around. Like the books can't stay on the shelves. These
You
videos have millions of views, right? And
Yeah.
it's literally just people consistently being authentic.
I'll tell you, here's an example, 'cause a big part of what I've done the last 10 years is in digital content creation. You it was most of it was short form content before moving into this idea of doing podcasts. And you can say you're a business, and you want to build an audience. Well, what happened 10 years ago was people would buy, they buy followers, and so you're automatically like corrupting your research, basically, like not
Yeah.
building if you don't have an authentic audience, you don't really like your content. It's not measurable in an accurate way. Same thing
Yeah.
if you're coming in and just boosting a bunch of your videos, you're not giving your content the opportunity to find an audience. Like, so, and if you, well, and what I mean is you're making your content find inauthentic audiences that are kind of forced. And then, so a big part of like even what we're doing with the social content strategy side of the podcast production is, let's have your best authentic self in your long form content with people that you want to talk to, who want to talk to you in conversations that, like, ultimately I think that everyone's going to have reasons for doing their content creation. Like, for example, if we have a bunch of real estate agents that want to build their networks, it's like that makes sense. Like you want to be
Yep.
able to touch points to your sphere, that totally makes sense. But let's have, wouldn't you rather have a sphere that actually cares about you, like
Well, I mean, what's I was at a large real estate online real estate brokerage for quite a while, over 7 years. The emphasis was on finding your tribe, right?
yeah.
Like find your tribe, and you're not going to find your tribe unless you're authentic. You're going to find a bunch of people are who authentically are what you're trying to portray as that
Mm,
character,
yeah.
right? But you're not going to find people that you authentically relate to.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to articulate the peace and comfort that comes from being able to look at someone in the face and say something and have their soul understand it. Right? Like, I don't have to tell you what I just meant. I just have to
Mhm.
say it and you absorb it the way that it was meant to be absorbed. Uh, that there's no other thing that gives you that feeling like that, right?
Mhm. So,
So the
mm,
idea, the idea here of taking something where people don't know how to start. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to talk about, right? They don't, or maybe they have an idea of those things, but they just want to get going. Or maybe they don't have the time. Maybe they don't know how to design, a brand that looks cool and compelling. Maybe they don't have time to do social media posts or even understand how to clip things so to be able to have a service like Apex where really as a host, all you have to do is come in and record your podcast, right? Uh,
mhm.
it and then everything else is done by the service,
Mhm.
it provides a freedom for you that you're not going to be able to find without 10 different things that you have to deal with, but now they're all in one place, right?
Mhm.
You just come to us and you go, "Hey, I even need help booking somebody for my show. Okay, well, let's bring you a guest. I want
Yeah.
to do a release schedule like this. Let's do that. I want these kind of social media things." When I started Sweeter After Difficulty, I intentionally also said, I'm not going to buy listeners.
Mhm.
I'm not going to do paid ads. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. At least initially, I'm not going to.
Mhm.
Because, and to not to keep bringing up Joe Rogan, but obviously he's a well-known podcaster. One of the things he said was, you don't want 1 million people to see your first 20 shows. Right?
Mhm.
Like your first 20 shows are going to suck. They're going to be the worst version of you as a host. You're not going to have any idea. You're scrambling through, even if you're good at it naturally.
Mhm.
Um, you don't want 1 million people watching your first 20 or 50 shows. You want those 1 million people to catch up when you're 200 shows in or 300 shows in. And then they go, oh, this is so cool. I want to binge everything that I missed. Right. And then they go back and they go, wow, look at all the progress here. There's nothing but pluses for you to grow your podcast as authentically as the self that you are projecting onto your podcast.
Dude,
It can't be understated,
100%,
right?
dude, 100%. And it's people don't realize like a brand is actually really easy to build when you're just honest about it. And
Right.
what I mean is, you can look at the 12 brand archetypes, right? Jungian psychology. You can look at the four core needs that people have in their lives, like a need for connection, relationships, a need for structure and organization, a need for freedom and a spiritual or just empowered journey, and then the need to be able to create and build a legacy for themselves. And we don't
Yeah.
experience all those all the time in our lives, but that
Right.
will come up at different points.
Yeah.
And and then you can talk about like, oh, the brand archetypes that, and what something in branding that was really interesting is they say if you don't pick an archetype, then it's like your brand becomes schizophrenic. and
Right.
and it's true. Like if you don't, just try to, that's that kind of the concept of like if I want to write a song, I want it to be totally authentic, but it's not also going to try to be reggae and rock and metal and jazz and fusion. It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick like some creative restraints around my music or whether it's a podcast or production. And I'll give you one other example. So my buddy Tim, who I've been wanting to introduce you to, I've been helping him launch a podcast, and he's a subject matter expert. Like he actually has a crazy cool philosophy. He's a sports coach. He was a coach chaplain for, I don't remember the name of the team, but it was the Seattle Mariners AAA ball team
Hmm.
for a number of years. Super cool coach. Like I've seen him run programs for like 500 plus kids in Hawaii, just helping them like be themselves. And he wrote a book called Competing Biblically, and his whole thing is he's like the original word for competition in Greek, whatever it was, to strive with, not to strive against. So
Yeah.
that opponent, that opposing team, or whether it's, let's say it's in jujitsu, like you're struggling with that person for excellence or towards
Right.
like something greater. And
Isn't that an
that's
amazing God, what an amazing concept, right? Like,
yes.
could you imagine if like someone running in a race just adopted the mindset, the people who are running with me, I'm not trying to right, it's
Mhm.
not about just destroying them.
You're not
It's
the enemy.
about
Yeah.
all of us doing the same thing together and trying to do it the best way we can. Like,
Yeah.
what a different way to think about something so
Yeah.
elementary, you know?
Dude,
It's
and
wild.
it's so often in, and I we can be talking to like a high level dominant and they would just be like, what are you guys talking about? Like of course it's about winning. Like, but
Right.
in this model of philosophy, it they talk about the 20-minute scoreboard versus the 20-year scoreboard. The
Yeah.
20-year scoreboard being winning is defined when I look back from this moment 20 years from now, whether or not I was proud of myself for how I handled this game, like,
Yeah.
or how this match or whatever this thing is. And I think about that for us, even for Apex, it's, ooh, yeah, we have a 5 year profit and loss statement that, it's like we have a pro forma, but real winning is going to be us looking back on this company 20 years from now on the 20-year scoreboard going, how authentic were we? How authentic did we help others to become? And like, what type of ripple effect did that have? Like, dude, that's the part for me that gets me and that is, I'm thinking in terms of what's the legacy of Apex going to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
So so if you had to give a concise answer,
yeah,
who is Apex for?
I think Apex is from a podcast creation standpoint. It's someone who uh, they want to have like a turnkey solution, like full service podcast and authority, like help. So basically, I was thinking of this like an authority engine, or and I could get really specific. Like, let's say it's a probably somebody who's an entrepreneur, or just actually literally has the desire to share a message that's inside of them, and they just like my friend Terry, perfect example, right? He is also somebody that I've been wanted to connect you with more. He's an NBC news anchor and an announcer, and he's a former college football player. Would have gone pro except he injured his shoulder, but he's got this huge, cool network of people. He's a subject matter expert. He's a brilliant communicator, and he doesn't want to do any of the tech stuff, dude. He like I walked him through on like teaching him how to set up his social accounts on Metricool and this and that, and 45 minutes into it, I was like, and Terry, now imagine that you never have to do any of this again.
I don't have to
He
do any of
laughed
it.
so hard, dude. He was just like, oh my gosh, like somebody just take all of that off his plate so he can just show up on camera, have cool guests that are already in his network, but like now this gives him a team to say, we'll reach out to your people. We'll handle everything for you, Terry. We can brand your podcast. We can, and so like the branding that we came up with was the next chapter, right? So his whole thing is all of his friends from NFL now they're either retired or retiring, and so what's the next chapter of their lives going to be like? And it's a mind trip, dude. So all that to say, sorry, I know I'm not being super concise, but
No, it's
it's
all right.
basically that person they've got the heart for it, they've got the desire to communicate, to have a podcast, and they're just going, I just want to hit the easy button
Yeah.
and have everything from what should the branding be to what kind of a host am I to what kind of guests should I want to what kind of audience am I trying to build, what's my value proposition statement. So it's like the left brained like business side of things and then the right brain creative authenticity side of things all blended together for them. Like that's who this is for. That's who Apex is for.
100%. And I think that's when I say concise, I meant Brent concise.
Yeah,
I know what those answers look like. Um, but for me, I was always really impressed by obviously it was music producers back then. So someone that I always thought was so amazing and I still do as an artist is like Rick Rubin, right?
mhm.
To me, um, his whole philosophy is really about it's done when it's done, right? We're not going to force anything where it doesn't belong. This thing's going to go until it has to go, and then it's right. And I think that having the instinct for when you can put a ribbon on it and say it's done is a developed skill. Having the ability to actively listen and give authentic feedback is a developed skill. And because of the places that we have found ourselves along this journey, we developed those skills, right? It was just one of those things where you just end up developing them by practicing and utilizing them over and over and over again. And so I think the most exciting thing for me about Apex is I just can't wait to sit and talk to people and hear their stories and then go, man, I can't wait to help you tell your story in the most beautiful, authentic, perfect way and get to be get to just sit back and watch people absorb it and be changed by it and resonate with it and relate to it. um I'm so excited about that. And but because of the way that my brain works, I start plugging in things like, business plans and, and algorithms and things like that. And I just go, like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to do this. And so the ultimate blessing here, and the reason I'm so excited about Apex ultimately, is because in you, I have found someone that not only that I can relate to on that production level that cares about the authenticity at the same level that I do, but also has developed the skill of running the business side of things so that I don't really have to worry about it. And, like I said, you don't want me counterfeiting that I'm good at business. You'd rather me just focus on the colors and the shapes and the conversations.
Well, dude, it's just to point out though, that being a creative director, which is really where I see you being in your primary role here, but
Yeah.
I'm obviously producer and producer director, but especially the creative director.
Yeah.
It is so valuable because that and like the way I think about it is, let's say we're going on a road trip together. The managing the business of Apex is like making sure that we've got gas money, making sure that we brought our map, making sure that we have, there's like the things that you just need, but
Oh my gosh.
but we're
I'm
not going to
so,
be.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm so glad you used that as an example because I constantly have a nervous passenger wife on any road trip we take because I'm like, we'll get gas at the next one.
Yeah,
Like I'll figure out where we are eventually. Like,
yeah,
don't worry about it. Like,
we're not lost.
we're on an adventure drive right now, right?
Dude, I've seen that, like, this is super funny, but like this like random meme of like there's two types of people in the world, and it's a gas tank that's like 7/8 full, and it says I need gas, and then there's the other one that's like on empty, and it's like we're fine. Like,
Empty just means I still have 30 miles, right? We're
dude,
fine. Don't worry
no,
about it.
no.
Don't worry
All
about
that
it.
to say though, obviously those elements of the road trip are important, but those are never the parts that we're gonna look back on fondly, like, "Oh, remember
Right.
how
Right.
we always had gas in the cans?" Like, no, like, we're gonna remember, like, "Dude, remember that crazy creative project that we did with Terry and took the next chapter and, like, helped him write a book, create like, codify his wisdom, create a curriculum, put that into, like, 6 seasons, and then, like, how at the end where we're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, remember Russ Lagan?" Like, when like, seeing the Be Follow podcast turn into the Russ Lagan podcast and seeing him get creative with, like, the way he does, like,
Yeah.
instrument making and woodworking and this and that, like, we're gonna be looking back on the creative side of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's great when you get to your destination on the road trip, but it's
The
yeah,
journey,
it's
right?
like
The
business
journey.
side, dude, like that's the easy part for me, but I love it's not the point. Like I'm not that's the like I've been around business folks who they get their value from how good they are at business, or and I've been around
Yeah.
musicians where it's like get their value by how good they are at music, and it's usually a comparison of who they're around. And I was trapped in that in a lot of these ways, and it's like the beautiful thing about authenticity is when we are happy with ourselves, we can actually see the world for how it is. And we can see people. We can be happy with other people, and we can be happy to just not get our value from our performance. It's like we can
Yeah.
perform
Yeah.
from value, not perform for value.
I mean, talk about authentic, right? Like you're not going to have a top shelf day every day. There's going to be sometimes when you go to make content and you feel like dog poo, like you're
Mhm.
there's gonna be those times. And I think that I think one of my favorite people that I know that's like super into social media is a realtor at EXP Realty called Gogo Bethke.
Mhm.
Absolutely amazing lady. She's started an empire, came over here with nothing. But she puts out the most real, authentic social posts on the planet. Like, she puts up posts of her pulling up to Target and her husband wants to get in the car and she rolls down the window just enough to make him dance before he's allowed to get in the car. Like, she tells this story about a time where she got a tooth knocked out, a front tooth, and couldn't get it fixed for a certain period of time, and she just kept doing content. She kept doing social media. She made a thing out of it. She
Wow.
talked about it. I mean, talk about real and authentic, right?
Yeah.
The people who were there went through that journey with her, and now if it gets mentioned, they go, "Oh yeah, Go-Go's tooth," right? Like
Mhm.
that's an example to me that was so like powerful.
Yeah.
Just the power of authenticity.
Yeah.
So all those things to say, apexpodcast.co is live right now. You can go check out the website. If you have questions or you have any information, if you're just interested in getting a podcast started, whether Apex is right for you or not, we would just love to meet you and love to make a connection and love to help you figure out how to be your authentic self and how to make the kind of content you want, how to relate to people, how to active listen, all of these things. It truly, the business, you're right, the money aside, all of those things, I just love people, and I would love to see more people be able to be authentic and have real, open, authentic conversations. I'm with you. I think that's a game changer for our society, for our country, for our world. Um, and I'm super excited, man, to be doing it with you. So thank you so much, for just being you, for being so open and so giving, and for being so excited with me. To be able to present this amazing opportunity for people. It is a business. I mean, authenticity out front, we will make money off of it, but it's truly not the point, and so reach out, help us connect, send people our way if you know people who have been talking to you about this. But you're going to see more from us. Check out the end of the podcast episode. Sweeter After Difficulty is throwing up the Apex Stingers now, and we're starting to put out more shows and more things and more guests, and you're going to see that grow. But until then, my guest today has been Brett Moore, my business partner for apexpodcast.co. You're listening to the Sweeter After Difficulty podcast. Do us a favor. I like I said, I hate the salesy stuff. You can always see me get kind of twitchy and uncomfortable when I get to this part where I'm like, please, set your notifications and subscribe to the channel and all that. But there is a reality to the way that this podcast thing works, and it only works if we're both actively participating. So it helps with the algorithm. It helps to put us out in front of more people. It helps us to be more available for you on more platforms. If you didn't hear the announcement last week, I think I made it. You can now find Sweeter After Difficulty on Transistor, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Rumble, everywhere that it's available. And you'll be able to get all of the Apex roster of artists, that they will all be available in all those places too. That's coming soon. Hope you're one of them. Until then, Brett, thank you so much. Everybody, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me.